Hey student, in fact solution it involves solid when it is dissolving in solvent, right? So substance which associate each other, but sometimes substance do not associate each other. That's gonna be your oil and water. When you add oil and water together, you could find a distinguished layer. That's gonna be your immiscible. In other hand, in fact, I would say they do not mix together. And shake for a while. After shaking, even you could see that is in immiscible condition only. Okay, not in mixed condition. So take oil and water and mix together, and you are actually going to get it emulsion. Okay, for making emulsion, basically you have to take oil and water. For example, here I have taken and shake it for a while. Okay, that's gonna your emulsion. And day-to-day life examples of emulsion could be your milk and mayonnaise, ice cream, of course paint as well. In this case you could find some droplet of oil will be present in the water. However, the emulsion will be exist when the water droplet present in the oil event. For example, you can see margarines, lotion and facial cream. Okay, most importantly I would say the world famous emulsion could be your ice cream. What is the ingredient literally needed to make it this? That could be your milk, cream and the sugar, of course the coloring also you need. To stabilize the ice cream, basically we tend to use emulsifier which can stabilize the emulsion, right? So most commonly egg yolk is added as a emulsifier in this making process of ice cream. In the egg yolk actually will get lecithin. The lecithin will actually help to stabilize the ice cream. Okay, in this experiment let me show you how we can stabilize the immiscible liquid. So in fact here I have taken water and oil. Whenever you are adding water and oil together, you could find oil will be floating on the water, right? So what you do, just stir it by means of a stirrer for a while. After even stirring, you could find the same condition, same similar layer. So what you need to do is just add emulsifier is added over here, right? Mayonnaise as a stabilizer, you could find the layer is not being formed, it is cloudy. Okay, let us do an experiment for the flocculation, I mean coagulation, right? For here we have taken couple of beakers. In one beaker tap water is there, another beaker mud river water is there. People tend to drink even in some places directly from the river water, right? So they do not know that small kind of floating particles will be there, which is literally risk for the health. Okay, that small floating particles can be seen only in microscope, right? So basically that small floating particles can be classified into two types. One could be inorganic like clay, and organic like bacteria and protozoas and algae. It will be present in the water. So these are in fact lighter in weight, so it will float. It is not heavy enough to be settled down in the bottom part. The small suspended particles we tend to say colloids. Okay, generally this colloid only causes the kind of cloudiness in the solution, that is your turbidity. Okay, so turbidity basically when more cloudiness are there, more turbidity in the water in the solution. It is arranged based on the increasing order of turbidity. Could you see in this diagram? You can see over here. And there is a relation between turbidity and the risk of diseases, right? If more turbidity, there is more risk of diseases. Because of this water you can get kind of cholera disease and E. coli hepatitis, and most importantly this will be very high risk for the children's. Okay, and here is the now I'm gonna tell you that how the flocculation process will takes place, and what is the exact mechanism will happen in this flocculation process, I mean coagulation process. So basically student, for the flocculation process we tend to use flocculant, I mean coagulant. That's going to be your aluminum sulfate, or in other words you could see another compound as well. Okay, just let's get a river water or impure water, and then what you need to do is just keep in the beaker as I have kept over here. You could see 2 beaker untouched beaker, you just keep in one beaker without flocculant, I mean alum, another beaker just you need to add flocculants, I mean alum. Okay, so after that you could see that in which beaker you have added the flocculant, I mean coagulant, in the form of aluminum sulfate. After a few minutes you can see the water will be very cleaned. Okay, the suspended particles has been deposited on the bottom part, right? So left beaker you could see that is remain same. So in this process the water is being cleaned. Actually, by adding this kind of flocculant we can clean the water. How the process actually takes place? Okay, basically colloids are actually negatively charged particles, student. So the flocculant, I means like aluminum sulfate we are adding, that must be a positive charge ion. So as we know that same charge will repel, opposite charge will attract each other. So here the colloidal solution, colloid is a negative and our flocculant is a positive, so that's gonna and will attract together, will form kind of a double layer. Okay, and that layer will help, like for example here you can see the suspending colloids are actually hanging in the solution, I mean in the water, right? So as soon as you add the flocculant, so flocculant as a positively charged ion and colloids in negative, so they will attract each others and finally they will aggregate and they will make a larger particles and finally they will be settled down. Okay, in this way the impurities or suspending particles will be cleaned. So this process actually widely used in many countries, especially in Singapore. Do you know the sewage water will be cleaned by means of this flocculation process. Composite material, when two different components are added together you can form a composite materials, right? So of course there is two different components but their properties complement each other, right? I can take an example for the composite materials, like the technical fiber which is made by glass fiber and the carbon fiber, which is used to enforcement the substances. Here is another composite materials, that's gonna be your bone, right? So how the bone is made? Bone basically made by means of a collagen protein and calcium phosphate. So we called it bone is a composite material because it is made by two substances.